brilliant people. So today I want to talk to you about what intuition is. So here are 10 things that intuition is. So number one is that intuition is right-brained. Now what does this mean? It means that we're talking about it in a way metaphorically, but your left brain is that right, wrong, analytical part of your mind, part of your neurology, whereas your right brain, that is the more creative part, the more, well, of course, the more intuitive part. So first thing that intuition is that it's right-brained. Now the second thing is, as part of that, it means that intuition is logical, but it's a different kind of logic to the one you're used to. So in school, you would have been taught about right, wrong stuff, nice big green ticks and big red crosses. So that is the way that we tend to look at everything. But the problem is that kind of logic works when we're looking at one thing at a time and also in complete isolation to other things. Whereas intuition, it's more of an interconnected logic. So it's a pattern-based logic. It's about how does this line up to that? So the second thing that intuition is it is actually logical, but it's an interconnected logic. So the third thing that intuition is it's problem solving. Now it's a different kind of problem solving again, because when we solve problems with our left brain, that right, wrong stuff, we tend to look at the list of possible solutions or options and cross off the ones that don't work for us. And then we try to pick from the ones that are left. So that's how we solve with right, wrong thinking. But with intuitive thinking, the way that we do is we look at the problem, but we really are focused more on what is it that we want. So we're not so much focused on, for example, the fact that there's nothing left in the fridge except milk. We're focused on, well, what do I actually really want to eat? And then we're looking at how do I get from here to where I want to go? So we're looking at how things connect up. That's the way your intuition works. It often thinks of solutions that you wouldn't have necessarily put on your list, because it's looking at, well, how do I connect things up? Not from the point of view of what's right and what's wrong. Now the fourth thing that intuition is it actually works with systems thinking. Now this is the kind of thinking that your right brain does. Your left brain does that sort of, as I said, analytical thinking, looking at things as, is this right, is this wrong? Whereas your right brain is systems thinking, which means it's really looking at, well, this is where I want to get to. Now, how do I keep correcting towards that? So systems thinking isn't really so much worried about what is right and wrong. It's really looking at, well, I want to head there. Now, am I on track for that or not? And if I'm off track, how do I get back on track? So when we're using systems thinking, we don't really worry about whether we're wrong because, well, unfortunately, being human, well, we're going to be wrong from time to time. It sucks, but it's the way it is. So we don't worry about it because it's inevitable. We're going to make mistakes. It's inevitable that we're going to be wrong at different times. So instead, we just focus on, well, how fast can I correct? How fast can I get back on track? Because in the end, that's what's more important. And actually, if we give ourselves a hard time, if we make ourselves wrong for having made that mistake, it just means that we end up taking longer to get back on track. So we start to realize that, well, thinking about where we're wrong, that's just kind of getting in the way. Really, what is more important is that we get back on track to where we want to go. Now, the fifth thing that intuition is that it is also integrity-based. Now, what does integrity-based mean? That is what your intuitive system is trying to correct towards all the time. It's trying to correct towards you being more you having more of the things that support you to be you in your life. By constantly correcting towards the things that support you, that's how your intuition also supports you to be who you really are, or supports you to be in your authenticity or integrity. Now, the sixth thing that your intuition is it's creative. Now, this goes along with your authenticity, because for all of us, we are actually at our most creative when we are just expressing our authenticity, when we're expressing our own essence. That's what brings our unique voice to whatever it is we're doing. So intuition, the sixth thing that it is creative. Now, the seventh thing that your intuition is naturally expansive. So, see, when we look at things from a right-wrong perspective, we tend to, when we look at the unknown or, experimenting with new things, it can be very nerve-wracking because we don't know, because it's unknown, it's new, we don't know if that's going to work for us or not. So, that can make it quite hard to change and grow. Whereas with intuition, because of that authenticity, that integrity base, we know that, well, we may not be sure how it's going to work, but we know that at the very least it's going to support us to be more of us. So it takes away a lot of that fear, a lot of that anxiety about experimenting, about expanding into something that you haven't known before. So intuition, it is naturally expansive because it supports us to move into the new. Now, the eighth thing that your intuition is it's multidimensional. Now, what I mean by that is similar to what where we talk about when you're reading a character in a book. Sometimes we talk about the characters just being one-dimensional. So that's a person who's really just interested in one thing. We might know someone who's just interested in football or just interested in their work and nothing else. So the thing is with that is that it means that if there is more going on in our life than just the football or just the work, well, it makes it hard to really have a complete or full relationship with that person. But with intuition, because again, that integrity base, it means that we can find what works for us across many different things. So for me, I do archery, I write, I run a clinic, I've got YouTube channel stuff that I do. I also paint, I go bushwalking, I do many things. If it's really going to support you, you want to be you in every single one of those areas, and having that intuition, it makes that actually much easier. So being clear about who you really are, being able to work from your integrity, your authenticity, or being able to do things from your integrity and your authenticity in all these different areas, it gives you a fuller, richer life. It makes your life multidimensional. So the ninth thing that your intuition is it's what they call extrasensory. So one of the old terms for intuition is extrasensory perception. Now what that means is that because your brain is actually electromagnetic in nature. I mean, that because we can put leads around your brain and we can get an electrical readout about what your brain is up to. So when you're working with your intuition, see there are many, our whole universe is actually electromagnetic as well, and we have many different energies, different frequencies of that electromagnetic radiation that we don't actually have physical senses for. But that doesn't mean necessarily that your brain doesn't pick it up. They've actually done experiments, I think in Stanford, where they showed that people's brains responded to a change in the magnetic field. So we know our brains are picking up more information than our five senses. So we can actually sense things beyond what we can smell and taste and touch and see and hear. However, how do you understand that? Well, your brain kind of does this really clever trick in the middle. It's in the area called central processing. And what it does is it kind of translates or converts that signal into one of your senses. So you might think that you're imagining things. But actually what it is it's your brain trying to give you that information that's coming through on one of those frequencies that you don't have a sense for. And of course, that's one of the tricks, is learning to tell the difference between your imagination and your intuition. But I'll talk about that in another video. So now the 10th thing that your intuition is, which I've kind of talked about a little bit already in the 9th point, is that your intuition is resonant. It is actually being able to pick up those other frequencies, those other signals that you don't have a physical sense for. Now, for example, a lot of reptiles can see infrared. Now, do we call that intuitive? No. But, we might be able to feel heat when we get close enough, but we can't see it from a distance. But, many reptiles can. A lot of insects can see UV light, and we don't tend to really be aware of the UV light, because if we were, we wouldn't get so burned. But your intuition can actually pick up these other frequencies. And in actual fact, the more that we learn to pay attention to those other frequencies, which can be very, very subtle signals in your own system. And again, in another video, I'll talk about how to train yourself to actually pay more attention to those subtle signals. Because, yes, the 10th point is that your intuition is resonant, because it is like reading the resonances or reading those different frequencies. So there you are. There are 10 things that your intuition is. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more of this content so you can see it as soon as I upload it. There are links down below to my book, and also between now and the next video, remember, choose brilliance.